Thank you, Amanda, and deep bows to you all. Good to see some familiar faces here, and how fortunate we are to have the privilege of having technology and access and the leisure and the inclination to engage in such an exploration as this. So look forward to sharing this with you. Um, I was fortunate to be introduced to the Dharma over 50 years ago now. And I went to the University of Washington in Seattle, and Dakshin Rinpoche, Daishin Rinpoche were on the faculty there. And it was just wonderful to be on campus and have Tibetan monks walking around. And that caught my attention. And I started studying with them and Dhamma in Seattle back in the really early 70s. And I must admit that after 50 years of practice, one of the main practices that I try and fathom is the practice simply of refuge, which oftentimes just gets zipped through at the beginning of a teaching or of a meditation. And I think today we'll linger there a bit and just explore what that might mean in some deeper ways. And then we'll also be interfusing the practice of refuge with the practice of Tonglen. And I'll share a really special version of the practice of Tonglen that is illuminated in Lama Palden's beautiful book, Love on Every Breath, um, which is just a treasure. So that's kind of the direction that we're heading today. So Amanda, if you could bring up the kind of standard refuge prayer, we'll do that together, given that we're here at Wonderwell, a natural Dharma fellowship. This is a familiar practice for many of you. And we'll do this and then we'll kind of explore from here. So let's say it or chant it in Tibetan first, and then we'll do English twice, as would classically be done. So I'll chant it in Tibetan to begin with. Sangye chedang suki chognam wa jangju bardu dagni kyabsu chi jang jike dagi jinso gi pesanam gi drola penchir sangye drupar sho. So together, if you like, in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightenment. By the power of generosity and other perfections, may we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. In the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightenment. By the power of generosity and the other perfections, may we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. So just pause for a moment to consider who or what is the Buddha as you understand that and its meaning in your life. At one level, it's we go for refuge. We take reliance upon, refuge, like we're in a small boat on a vast turbulent ocean, and we can find a harbor to take refuge in, to feel protected and cared and resourced and nourished. So there's the Buddha of 2,600 years ago who awoke sitting under a tree, embedded in the temple, the holy book of nature. The last veils of ignorance and confusion, as they say, melted from his heart and mind. And for 49 days after his awakening, he simply sat there in the forest trying to grok and fathom what he had awakened to, the vastness of the vision, the view that was offered to him. And then cajoled by many great beings and other planes and realms of consciousness, he left his seat under the tree and headed out into the world and found 5 disciples and offered the first wave of teachings. And those teachings have rippled on for 2,600 years through countless teachers who have practiced what he taught, have added their revelations and realizations to that. And those teachings have streamed into our awareness and our consciousness um, through our encounters with various teachers and various Dharma teachings that we've taken refuge in, and scriptures that we've relied upon, and podcasts that we've listened to, and through the encouragement and support of our spiritual community, our brothers and sisters on this journey with us, the Sangha. So as you sit here right now, just sense yourself sitting here at the center of the mandala of your field of awareness. Maybe look around at the room that you're sitting in and just sense that wherever you shine the light of your awareness, you're just lighting up the mandala of your awareness. And that you're taking refuge in your office, your living room, this home, this apartment that you abide within. And you're held there, you're safe, you're resourced, you're nourished there. And maybe you look outside at the beauty of nature around you, and you're held by your neighborhood or the forest or the trees or the fruit trees that you've planted or the plants on your lanai. And sense that you can call into the field of your awareness like a constellation of shining stars, the Buddha and all of the teachers since the Buddha that comprise the lineages, the wisdom lineages of your teachers and your teachers, just all hovering around you like stars in the sky, bathing you in their light, their love, their energy. And call forth all the scriptures that you've relied upon. Yeah. The Buddhist scriptures, and appreciating that the Dharma is not just how to say, contained within the Buddhist franchise, but that all the wisdom teachings that help us open our eyes and open our hearts and open our minds to embrace of reality are the Dharmas. So we're not confined here to just calling them teachers or teachings or sources of inspiration from just the Buddhist tradition, but just sense this constellation growing more robust with the shining presences of other illuminating teachers whose love, whose wisdom has opened your heart, opened your mind. And imagine here all of your Dharma friends and co-explorers and the people whose presence and fellowship and spiritual friendship has been a part of your life, also surrounding you here, bathing in their light. So taking refuge, imagine that with each breath, you can just breathe in and gather their light, the love, the strength, the spiritual energy, the mana, as we say here in Hawaii, of these beings, and take it to heart, and that you can radiate and emanate the light of your thanksgiving, your blessings, your love to your teachers, and through your teachers to their teachers, and through their teachers to their teachers, all the way upstream through these wisdom lineages. So with each breath, there's a sense of just weaving ourselves more deeply into the fabric of this field of blessings and of goodness that we're held within, bathing in their light, taking their spiritual energy, their love, their strength to heart, and emanating and radiating our love, our blessings, our gratitude back to them and through them into this field of blessings. And we include in this field of refuge all the unseen beings or the subtle beings who may have been sources of guidance and protection for us, not only spiritual ancestors, but yeah, the holy host of angels and spiritual guides and subtle forces and local protectors that have held us, guided us, supported us, known or unknown. Maybe even the animal teachers who have really opened our hearts and minds as our pets or wild animals that we've had meaningful encounters with. Receiving their light, their strength, radiating our love to them, our thanks to them. And we can take refuge in all of the holy places and sacred places in nature, was those shorelines where we watch the sunrise or the sunset, or those forest groves or special trees, or portals of insight and understanding and realization, or deeper peace or healing have come to us. Breathing in their light, the energy of those precious moments, radiating our blessings back to those places, some of which may not exist anymore because they've been developed or changed. And some of us may have had encounters with plant medicine or other natural or even synthetic sacraments that have opened our hearts and minds in various ways. And we give thanks to the gardens in which those grew or the people who cultivated those plants or synthesized those compounds that have led to our healing in deep and spiritual ways. Hmm. So in this phase of refuge, there's a sense of communion, a really holy communion, that we're embedded within this larger body of life, that we're infused and enlivened by participating in this larger field of life, that we're held and nurtured and resourced in this larger field of life. And each breath is just a wave of this communion, a sense of receiving and radiating our love, our gratitude, our blessing. An image that I like to share is to think of one teacher or spiritual friend who's particularly vivid in your presence right now, to call them close to you and to actually reach out with a hand and hold their hand, actually physically reach out. And as you hold their hand, imagine that you can just breathe in their love, their strength, their wisdom, their realization, like waves of light, and take it to heart, and that you can emanate, radiate your love, your gratitude back to them as you hold hands with them. And that as you reach out to them, you can reach out through them, envisioning them reaching out to hold the hands of their teachers and spiritual friends, and that they in turn reach out to hold the hands of their teachers and their spiritual friends. And it just cascades way back, so that as you breathe, there's a sense of the light of the transmission and the blessings flowing through these spiritual ancestors to you. And the light of your love and your thanksgiving and blessings flowing back upstream to them. And you could imagine sprouting more arms to reach out to more teachers or more spiritual friends in this way, just sensing these streams of light and blessings and strength flowing to you and flowing through you in this sense of kind of deep, deep reciprocity where we receive so deeply and we're moved to say thank you in such vast ways. Mm. And as we rest in this sense of refuge, this sense of receiving and radiating, we can also envision that we emanate this love, these blessings, this light to all those who look to us as a source of refuge, as a kind teacher, as a spiritual friend, as a source of love or inspiration or strength. We bathe our children and our grandchildren, our loved ones and friends and students and patients in this light. And as we do, we sense a gentle reverberation of their love and gratitude bouncing back to us as waves of light that fill our hearts and inspire us to even overflow more generously. As we emanate this light and this love out to others, we sense it flowing through them to their families, to their colleagues and co-workers and patients and students and friends, and through them to the friends and the students and the patients and those within the mandalas of those they care for. And this energy just rippling out into the world and out into the future in a boundless way. And the reverberations of that receiving flowing back to us is thanksgiving and love that we take to heart. As we aspire more deeply to awaken to the wisdom and the love and the spiritual power that allows us to truly be a force for good, a source of inspiration and blessings in the lives of countless other beings. So it's as though we sit at the fulcrum of this infinity sign, receiving from the ancestors and teachers and the generations of the past, and emanating our light and our love upstream back to all those spiritual ancestors and sources of strength. And that we also receive this goodness and light and emanate this out into our field of operations, into our world, into the mandala of our lives, to those that bathe in the light of our love and our friendship and our teaching, our inspiration, and through them rippling out into the future in boundless ways, in the love and the thanks of those beings, known or unknown, flowing back to us as waves of thanksgiving and light that nourish us, open our hearts to receive more deeply, radiate more generously. And within this all, we come to some sense that the Buddha that we're taking refuge in is not only the external representation as a historical figure, and all the beings who have practiced those teachings and realized them and passed those wisdom teachings and realizations and blessings on. But the Buddha we take refuge in is also our own inner clear awareness, our own inner clear loving presence. We call this forth. We abide within this. We feel the strength and the protection and the power of this loving presence within us that is the Buddha. And we take refuge in the Dharma of just the way things are in their deepest, most multidimensional sense, as embodied beings, as energetic beings, as mysterious, multidimensional spiritual beings. We take refuge in the Dharma of the seamless unity of our inner world and our outer world, of the inner elements interfusing with the mandala of outer elements. We take refuge within the Sangha of the various aspects and dimensions of our being that coordinate together in blessed ways. As part of the fabric of the seamless wholeness of our being. So we appreciate that the outer refuges that rely upon are basically to help us awaken to the essence and the truth and the true nature of who and what and how we are in the seamless unity of our cell awakening within the larger body of life. We take refuge in this great wholeness. In the Jewish tradition, there's the notion of tikkun olam, repairing, restoring the wholeness of the world. That's what we do in this kind of meditation. Come home to our home. We dissolve the illusion of our sense of separate self into this nexus of converging energies, waves of light, blessings, and strength that flow to us and flow through us in boundless ways. And we dissolve the illusion of our lack of resourcefulness, of our lack of connection, as we just sense that with each breath we are filled with so much light and strength from inside and outside that overflows from our hearts and minds and bodies as waves of blessings and light. Mm. And we appreciate that with each of the 21,600 breaths that we breathe each day, more or less, that we can affirm this sense of interfusion. We can affirm and return to this view of receiving and radiating. This sense of being embedded within this field of wholeness and goodness and blessedness and refuge. with access to whatever resources we need. If we need peace, we can call in peace and emanate peace. If we need healing, we can draw in the healing energies from everything and everyone that's a source of healing. Take that to heart and emanate and extend those healing energies to ourselves, to parts of our body within us and parts of our body in the bodies of other beings who can use some waves of that healing light. So in the sense of refuge, there's a sense of just our boundless resourcefulness and access to whatever qualities or kinds or frequencies of spiritual strength that we need. It's all available. Mm. So if this is our foundation now, let's just hover here for a moment, maybe looking into our hearts or touching our hearts and just appreciating what has been realized or glimpsed so far that has meaning for you. Just to kind of rest in open awareness for a few moments and just behold what has come alive within you through the meditation thus far. And to give thanks for that. Yeah. And I'd like to just send a wave of blessings to Bob Thurman, who first really articulated to me the sense of kind of being at the nexus or the center of this infinity sign of just receiving from all the sources of refuge of the past and then emanating and extending those energies to out into the mandala of our lives and into the future, and then receiving the love and the strength of those we emanate to as waves of nourishment, strength, and just the commingling of the upstream and the downstream. Yeah, really bless Bob for that. And here, with this as our foundation, we'd like to move into the Tonglen phase of the meditation. And many of us have encountered the teachings on Tonglen before, but would like to share a really special transmission of this that came down through Kalu Rinpoche, the previous Kalu Rinpoche, not the young Kalu Rinpoche that many of us have met, but the elder Kalu Rinpoche that some of us old timers had a chance to study with. And Lama Palden has put this into a beautiful book called Love on Every Breath. And this is a transmission of Tonglen that Kalu Rinpoche taught that came down through the lineage of the Dakini, the woman yogini named Nuguma in the 11th century who lived in Kashmir. And it's an extraordinary form of Tonglen, which has additional elements in the process that really help us awaken to our Buddha nature, our true nature. And in this style or form of Tonglen, classically we would pray to the Bodhisattva of compassion, Chenrezi, or Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit, for our love and compassion to fully awaken, fully bloom. And we regard Chenrezi, who embodies all the awakened love of the Buddhas and all the awakened beings, the love and compassion of them, who dissolves into us and we become inseparable with this archetype of universal love and compassion. And as we do this, if you feel a resonance or a kind of connection with Chenrezi, in either the forearm manifestation, the forearms representing the four aspects of love, of equanimity and love, wishing well, compassion, wishing relief from suffering, and joy in our true nature, or the thousand-armed version of Chenrezig. We can feel that connection there. But if for you, the embodiment of universal love and compassion is Mary or Jesus or Kuan Yin, I invite you to just rely upon an image of those great awakened embodiments of love rather than just Chenrezig, if that's an unfamiliar archetype for you. So, yeah, I think that's enough just to lay the foundation for this. Opening our hearts, I'm reading from Lama Palden here. Opening through our hearts into our true nature is one that we're part of this wholeness. When we let go of everything and the taking and the sending and dissolve into the openness and emptiness and boundlessness of our true being, we dissolve the illusion of a separation of a doer and anyone who's doing, and we let go of anything that's being done. And there's a sense of the non-dual wisdom that awakens within us. We allow our minds to rest here in this openness, inseparable from this sense of love and compassion that's been awakened within us. So there's a number of stages to this, and we'll go through these together. So the first stage is to rest in open awareness. So if you like, just reaching up, touching your heart, gently smiling, eyes softly open. And if you like, just softly sounding ah. And just with that ah, riding the waves of that ah into just open, clear, loving awareness within which the breaths come and go. The sounds come and flow, sensations and vibrations and mental formations arise and pass. And we just abide within this open, clear, loving presence. And then as we move to the second phase, we call in all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the awakened beings and the portals for the blessings of the Dharma to flow into our life. We call in all of our teachers and spiritual friends, as we did in the first phase of this meditation. And we sense ourselves bathing in the light of all of these beloved beings. We take refuge in this field of blessings and goodness and light. We open to receive and to radiate our love and gratitude back to them. And then here, as we take refuge in this field of goodness, we can envision that each and every one of these shining nodes of light, each of these teachers, each of these embodiments of awakened love and wisdom, one by one or all together, just melt into spheres of light, and the spheres of light come to just merge with us, to interfuse with us, like luminous Russian dolls all nesting together within us. So we merge our hearts and minds with the hearts and minds of all these sources of refuge, and we become inseparable from them. We share our hearts with them. We allow them to look out through our eyes, if you wish. We share our hearts with them. And at the third step here, we really generate bodhicitta. We open our hearts to the deep and profound aspiration and wish to awaken fully in order to completely free ourselves and others from suffering and the causes of suffering, and to establish everyone in a state of peace and joy and well being and awakenedness. And we think that we're engaging in this meditation not just for ourselves, but in order to awaken all beings in this larger body of life to their true nature. And in this way, in a sense, we reclaim the sanctity of wokeness through the deep aspiration that may I and all beings fully awaken to our true nature and highest potentials. As we move to the fourth step, now we call in the spirit, the spiritual presence of Chenrezi or of any other being who for us is really an embodiment of universal love and compassion. And we pray to these great beings to be bathed in their love, the light of their love and their compassion. And we envision Chenrezi or Jesus or Mary or Kuan Yin or Tara just melting into light and merging with us, dissolving into ourselves so that we feel a sense that at the deepest, most essential level of our being, we are inseparable from the awakened compassion and love of these great beings, that we embody their light, their love, the radiance of their awakened hearts. And as we do, we in this style of Tonglen practice, we envision a small Chenrezi or a small embodiment of this divine presence at our heart. And in their heart, we envision a diamond vajra of light that radiates the energy of love in five-colored light, a rainbow light to all beings. So we experience ourselves as an embodiment of this divine archetype. We envision an image of this divine archetype dwelling in our heart center, in our physical heart, but our heart center. And at their heart is, if you know what a diamond vajra is, you can envision the shape of the vajra. Otherwise, just a jewel, a radiant jewel of the energy of universal love and compassion, shining rainbow light, five-colored light out. There's boundless blessings to all beings. And so as we abide here as an embodiment of this archetype and this deity and image of that in our heart and this radiant jewel, Vajra, shining in our heart. At this phase in the meditation, classically, we chant the mantra of great compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, to, in a sense, just amplify the radiance of our true loving heart. And if Om Mani Padme Hum is familiar to you and native to you, then just take a few quiet moments to just be in the recitation of that mantra. And if another mantra or another prayer connects you with the energy and the radiance of your true heart, go there. Use that mantra or that prayer or that phrase that carries the energy and the spirit of universal love. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. Mm. So we appreciate through the power of the visualization, through the power of aligning and attuning our awareness to these universal archetypes and embodiments of love, through the power of the mantric recitation, we align and attune ourselves to these frequencies and these energies of universal love and compassion, receiving them and radiating. And now moving into the more familiar phases of Tonglen. Here we continue to envision ourselves as an embodiment of this universal archetype, this deity of universal love, Genrezi, Guan Yin, Jesus, Mary, however that is, Tara. And we envision our ordinary self sitting in front of us, bathing in our light. And we open our hearts to feeling any suffering that may be present within our ordinary human self. And from our illumined kind of embodiment of universal love self, we bathe our ordinary self sitting before us in the light of our loving kindness and compassion. As we chant the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, or just abide in this radiant loving presence. And as we do, we can also breathe in any sense of suffering that we sense within our ordinary self sitting before us, our aching pain or our anxiety or turbulence of mind. We can envision breathing in any of the suffering within us as like waves of black smoke, and that black smoke of suffering dissolves into that vajra or that jewel at our heart and is instantly transformed into radiant white light or rainbow light of the nature of awakened love and healing energy that flows back to our ordinary self, back to those aching joints, or back to that whirling mind, or back into the parts of our body in need of healing. So that with each breath, we can just breathe in the energies of suffering or pain of ourselves that are just dissolved and resolved in this Vajra jewel at our heart. And this Vajra jewel at the heart then radiates waves of just pure, coherent, healing, loving light back to whatever parts of ourselves are suffering. And we see our ordinary self just being filled with this loving light, bathed in this healing light. And we can not only breathe in the energy of suffering that's manifesting now, but we could breathe in the seeds of any latencies for disease or dysfunction or disintegration that may reside within our ordinary self. We can breathe those latencies in and dissolve them and emanate this love as waves of strength that assure our health and vitality, increase the probability of that well-being in the future. So we begin by affirming our universality and our spiritual power and strength, and also having compassion here for our ordinary relative self with all of its suffering and vulnerability and frailty. And through this warm embrace of ourselves, we may come to the realization that, just like me, many other people, many other humans, many other non-humans suffer in the same way. They suffer from aches and pains and diseases and fears. And we open our hearts here that by my own suffering, may the suffering of all beings be eased and freed, so that There can be a sense now that we envision other beings sitting in front of us or around us. We might think of a loved one or a friend or some person we've glimpsed in the news who's suffering, who's vulnerable. Envision them before us in the same way we envisioned ourselves, and we might breathe in the energy of their suffering and vulnerability that dissolves into the Vajra at our heart, the jewel at our heart. We bathe them in the light of our loving kindness and awareness. Or we might think of someone else who suffers from the same disease or vulnerability as us, and commune with them, breathing in the light of their suffering into this invulnerable, invincible dimension of our true heart, transformational heart. Fill them with the light of our loving kindness and compassion. And so we proceed with this Tonglen, envisioning individuals or groups of beings sitting before us, breathing in their suffering like waves of dark smoke or dark light into our jeweled Vajra heart, transforming those energies and radiating and emanating and bathing them in the light of our love, filling them with this light, this comfort. And we're mindful who comes to mind, what individuals or groups of beings. And we invite them into the mandala of this transformational, this light. Filling them with this light, this loving light, this great goodness. And we're mindful of the individuals and the groups of beings who come to mind, welcoming them all if they arise, just to be held in and bathed in the light of this loving light. And as we breathe in their sorrows and fears and pains and disease and vulnerability and the seeds of meanness and disease within them, and bathe them in the light, the clear, loving light, the rainbow loving light of this universal love and compassion. And we can gradually expand the scope and the field of this meditation to include more and more beings who, just like me, suffer in these ways from confusions and delusions or disease. There's a sense that each breath is just waves of loving light, embracing the sufferings and the sorrows of individuals and groups or all beings all at once into this invincible, pure transformational dimension of our true heart visualized as this jewel or this vajra, where the sufferings are dissolved and resolved, opening the heart to radiate this pure light of love. And by visualizing ourselves as just being inseparable from this universal archetype of Chenrezig or Kuan Yin or Jesus or Mary, in a sense, it just liberates us from our sense of insufficiency or our lack of capacity or power. And we can just say, you know, teach me how this works. Just show me from this universal dimension of my true heart. Just let me behold how this meditation really functions. And to be in the awe, the wonder, the gratitude that we have such profound and, in a sense, easy access to catching a glimpse of this profound transformational capacity that we have, that we all have, but the few have maybe glimpsed or realized. Love on every breath. Hmm. Hmm. As we move, prepare to move to the next phase now, we could just, again, if you like, touch your heart or just sense into your heart to gently smile. And with an ah, just let go of any doing or visualizing. Just let yourself melt into a sense of open, clear, spacious, loving presence within the ah. And then this open, clear spaciousness of being to simply behold whatever it is that has come alive within you, whatever is shimmering or glimmering within you, as you rest in the sky-like loving awareness. Integrating all that you've glimpsed and learned through this sequence of contemplations. And from here, we move into a mode of dedication, just being in the natural radiance of the wonderment, the gratitude, the wish to share, bathe all beings in the light of the goodness that has awakened within us. We move into dedication and overflow, bathing all beings in the light of the goodness that is awake within us, with the wish that may all beings receive the energy of this dedication in ways that bring them to their wholeness, that awaken them to their true nature, and a sense of deep, deep happiness and well-being, liberation from their confusions and delusions. May all beings awaken to their true nature and their highest potentials. So when you're ready, maybe with another gentle breath, and then if your eyes are closed, let them gently open. And just kind of hover here together, bathing in the light of each other's loving presence. Seeing each of us as these just radiant beings, these fathomless, multidimensional embodiments of universal love and presence, kind of wrapped in all the unique bundles that each of us are, with this, kind of timeless, loving light shining through us. Yeah. And maybe just to open this up for some reflection, some reflective meditation here, just in a word or a phrase or an image, what's alive within you now, just as we're emerging from this meditation, this sequence of meditations? What's alive within you now? Just a glimpse, a word, a phrase, an image. Call that.
Peaceful contentment.
Thank you, Tony.
Tender.
Softness.
Thank you, Jen.
Awareness of all the suffering in the world.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Loving kindness.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you, Eric.
Compassion for the souls imprisoned in El Salvador.
Mm. So one of the inspirations for offering this bundle of, this medicine bundle of potent practices today is, I don't know about you, but I think for myself and so many of the people that I encounter, these just crazy making times can just leave us like feeling a bit overwhelmed and disempowered, and just like, what can I do to stop the madness? And that we may feel so insufficient and so incapable of doing anything that's going to rock the boat in positive ways or stop rocking the boat in crazy ways. So the practices of refuge that we touched here really can help us find our strength, our empowerment. It's just sort of like, we may not, we all have these devices that we deal with, yeah? And they're cool, we can do all kinds of wonderful things with them, but if they're not tapped into the web or the network, they're kind of useless at some level. So refuge, in a sense, is a way of just affirming that my personal device, myself, has access to this boundless field of resourcefulness, of energy, of inspiration, of information that I can draw upon. And the refuge really can tap us into that sense of access to greater strength, to greater wisdom, to deeper guidance. If we're trying to do it all by ourselves, Lord have mercy. It's just like we're going to feel insufficient. But if we really can explore the potentials that awaken to us through the practices of refuge, that sense of receiving and radiating, it opens a door to a greater sense of capacity and go-for-itness, if you will. Yeah. And then the Tonglen gives us something that we can actually do for our brothers and sisters that are suffering so deeply in Darfur and Sudan and Kashmir and Gaza and El Salvador and next door and just Washington D.C. and just the Tonglen gives us a set of practices that really allow us to sit in our little homes in New Hampshire and Vermont and Long Island and wherever we may be, Hawaii, and just dig deeply into the wounds and the suffering and the injustice and the hardship and just the craziness of what's going on out there, and just fill beings with goodness and peace and healing and light and love from our kitchen, on the side of a mountain in a little suburb someplace. And to do this with the same kind of confidence and certainty that, we write a message and we hit send, we trust it will be delivered and that grandma or granddaughter will get the message, and we don't know how it works. We can't really fathom all the technology and the subtle energy involved, but we trust the force, we trust the networks and the satellites to just deliver the bundle. In the same way, we engage in these practices with a kind of, genuine confidence and faith that the energy will be conveyed, that our loved ones will be bathed in our loving light, or those people just clustered in these insane prisons and shelters and bombed out places, will be bathed in this light. That these misguided, troublemakers that are doing things that cause great suffering, that we can breathe in their confusion and delusion and gentle their hearts and open their wisdom eyes, that they might drop their weapons or their meanness and just be more kind. Yeah. So we do the best we can. And part of the beauty of this practice from that we just did of Tonglen is we step right into our universal identity. We step right into our Chenrezig self, our Kuan Yin self, our Jesus, Mary self, and we just say, okay, from this level of being and identification, how would this work? What might this look like? What might this feel like? And we really let ourselves be empowered by shifting the locus of our identity into a more universal aspect of possibility and give it our best shot from there. Yeah. So any questions or reflections on what this meditation opened for you? What did you glimpse, or what questions do you have that you'd like to share? Let's just explore together. Oh, Elaine, looks like you've got your hand up.
Thank you. I think the one thing that this opened up for me, the Tonglen, is that, as I said, there's so much suffering and so much unfairness in the world. So I think if you don't have the faith in what we just did, right? If we don't have faith in, say, Tonglen, and no matter how deeply we feel and wish with all our heart that what we're praying for, what we're hoping for is received. So I think what you just said essentially is, as we trust our phone to deliver a message, as crass as that sounds in comparison to the message that we're attempting to deliver. And I think that was so important to hear. Because it's so easy just to throw your hands up in the air and say, I can't do anything. I could just feel for these people and there's nothing I can do. But I think more and more in my heart, I think there is doing something like this. Not only hopefully serves people suffering, but serves me also.
Yeah.
So thank
It-
you.
Yeah, this really can awaken a sense of agency and engagement. And, rather than just being a voyeur for the news, seeing all these just gruesome images and feeling, just this deep empathy and resonance with people. There's this misnomer of compassion fatigue, but it's actually empathy fatigue. If you look at the circuits in the brain that light up when we're in empathic resonance with other people are different from the circuits in the brain that light up when we actually go to compassion. So that if we're just overwhelmed by our empathic resonance for the suffering of other beings, it can be debilitating and draining and exhausting. And there's a sense of, what can I do? But the moment we cross the line and actually go into compassionate engagement by doing Tonglen, or sending the light of our love, or reaching out with kindness, or doing something moved by compassion, that empathic overload is resolved. That energy is dissipated as we go into action. And I think that's part of the malaise of these times, is that so many people are feeling overwhelmed by the suffering that's taking place, but they don't know how to actually move into compassionate engagement, which Tonglen is one of the absolutely most direct and accessible ways to do that. We can also make phone calls and write letters and say prayers and give food and actively engage in compassion, but we can also sit on our couch in our living room and go into the hearts and minds of these suffering beings in these different places and engage with them. We can watch or listen to Democracy Now! Or the news and pause at each step along the way and do Tonglen with those suffering beings, rather than just being overwhelmed by our empathic resonance with them. So that, wow, I mean, if you know these practices, this can be a time of just intense and immense spiritual evolution through really taking it to heart and engaging in these practices, rather than just being, overwhelmed by the bad news, but not actually engaging in the practices to, take some responsibility or do something that might be helpful. So thank you, Elaine. I get that you get that, and I could just envision you sitting for hours every day in your kitchen, just lighting up the world doing Tonglen, or walking down the street doing Tonglen, and just coming out the other side of this just terribly difficult time, really illumined and more confident and more capable. Beautiful. Thank you. Margaret, you've got a hand up.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry, but the system doesn't seem to allow me to put my video on. I don't know
Okay,
why. I've
no worries.
asked for help, but I haven't gotten any yet.
Okay, we hear your voice.
Um, First of all, I wanted to thank you. This is the second time I've done Tonglen, and this has been just so moving and so instructive and so very helpful. I resonate with everything you've been saying. I guess I can get my video on. Okay.
Yes.
I have been, doing all the things you've said, calling people, writing letters, doing protests, everything. And somehow it hasn't felt like I'm doing enough. And today I felt like I did everything. It was just an amazing experience. I was the one who said this men who are suffering in the prison in El Salvador. I mean, I really felt like I could reach them. And it was an incredible thing. I also love the spaciousness where you just go into spaciousness. I haven't done that before either. And so that was equally beautiful. So I wanted to thank you for all those teachings. And I do hope that the Natural Dharma Foundation has recorded this, because I will use your guidance every day to do this again and again and again until I know it well enough to do by myself. And so thank you so much. And before I leave, I wanted to ask you again the name of the book you were reading from.
Okay. So if you look at the chat, I put in a link. We've got a page, wisdomatwork.com/great compassion. It's got a lot of links and notes to these meditations, some of the and more. So that's a good resource for you. Somebody asked about spelling. I wrote in Chenrezig and Avalokiteshvara. The book is Love on Every Breath by Lama Palden, who's a good friend and friend of Willa's, and it's a great book that goes through these various stages. She's probably got some YouTube videos where she guides this. And the wisdomatwork.com site has links to a lot of this. And I'll give you my email. Levey at wisdomatwork.com. And if you like, we send out an inspirational email every day, most every day, 5-6 times a week.
Oh, wow.
And we also have 4 Zoom meditations a week that you're welcome to join, and a sweet community of people who join us. So if you'd like to be on our email list, just send me an email and I'll add you to our list. And you'll meet some wonderful people potentially, or at least get a daily little drop from Michelle and I that might lift your spirits.
That's
Also
great.
want to acknowledge it listed both Michelle and I to do the session this morning. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here when we began in Hawaii, and we had listed it when we signed up that she said, if you want to do it, you're welcome to. So I'm just here as an ambassador for Michelle as well. But oftentimes we do teach together, and we've taught at Wonderwell together as well. So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome, Margaret. Sweet to connect and reach out and just let's stay connected. Part of the thing with meditation in Tibetan, the word for meditation is gom, Gom, and it means to familiarize. So to appreciate that as we practice these meditations, we become more familiar with how these work. We become more confident in our capacity to engage in these meditations. And as our familiarity grows, our confidence grows, and our capability to actually engage in these practices increases. So it's like learning how to play music. At first it's like, damn, how do I get the fingering down? But, with practice, we become more familiar in an embodied way, and we become more confident, and then we can become more creative in terms of how we embody these practices. So, yeah, start where you are and just grow more familiar. Thanks for your comments, Margaret. I'm touched by that. Alicia.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful meditation that just took me to all these great places. I realized that I basically do Tonglen every day when I meditate, and I have been for years. And my first introduction to mindfulness was through Pema Chodron's Tonglen practices. So I'm so appreciative that I was taught that so long ago,
Yeah.
and that and it's just amazing how your meditation helped us and helped me see that it just the circle just it's like an infinity. Like you said, I never kind of put that word to it, but it just kept growing. It just keeps, and even in my everyday, it's like, how can I keep including more and more people and things and situations? But it does, it keeps happening, and it has, and it's just within the realm of the time dimension. It works too. It's just, to me, amazing. And the other thing, though, that I kind of wanted to put out there too is that, of course, whenever I start to get like really deep into my meditations, it touches some part of me that makes me very, very tender and, like somebody said, tender and very vulnerable, and makes me want to cry. And part of what I think what makes me sad is that as much as I put out, it kind of works in funny ways, but I put out all this compassion, which really helps. It really helps me feel peaceful and stable and able to get out into the world and feel like I'm just doing my best. I've given all my best, and I continue sort of with the compassion work as I'm out in the world. That's part of my work. And yet, we humans can be very mean and disrespectful, and just just brush people off all the time, feel like you've been brushed off, get miscommunicate, and people's interpretations can be really off. Like, I can feel like I'm being the most compassionate that I can totally be, and a person that I'm looking at across from me could be like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And that, though that's distressing and saddening to me, it's this work that helps me kind of work through that,
Yeah.
get through that, get beyond that, and say, I'm doing the best I can, and this is all I can do. And I was reminded, I've seen some of Lama Polden's work, and I've read parts of Love on Every Breath, but that Vajra diamond, that really is a very powerful image to put into my heart, that just feels really strengthening. So thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that back in to that, because I don't always do that part of it, I think. But that really is really a beautiful image in my mind.
Yeah, that's kind of unique to this particular practice. I've never seen it in another form of it. So beautiful. Thank you
And I
so
just saw
much.
something online that's sort of the image of the Vajra diamond,
Uh-huh. Beautiful.
which I love, the fingers.
I love that. Yeah. It's said that Tonglen is a practice that once you learn it and you practice it, at one level, it's so organic, like if your pet is suffering, you want to hold them, or your child is suffering. We all know the feeling of just wanting to gather them in our arms and breathe in all their suffering or pain or fear and give them all of our love and strength. It's just so organic at that level, the impulse. And it's said that from the moment that we glimpse the potential, that we have the capacity to engage in that way of being, and we cultivate that maybe over countless lifetimes, that the moment when we fully awaken, that an enlightened being is just in the state of Tonglen all the time. So that we, in a sense, this meditation will just grow and grow and grow until that's all that's left. I think that's just a beautiful teaching. And the dynamism of Tonglen, of every time we do it, it's going to be different. Different people will come to mind, different feelings and experiences will come to mind. And the tears, when our eyes are moistened or dripping, it's a clue, the navigational aid that we're on the right track. Many great teachers have said we know when we're close to the truth when we have tears in our eyes. So not to be afraid of that, but to really even go more deeply into it and to just honor the impulse of that. Imagine the awakened beings beholding the machinations of unenlightened beings thrashing around in the world, harming themselves and others, and just how utterly heartbreaking that is to witness. Yeah, it does give rise to tears. Yeah. So thank you, Alicia.
And it is so organic. I just wanted to add one thing. And yet some people are so afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because you're breathing in the suffering. And so much of, I don't know, our modern culture is about pushing it away.
Yeah.
So by allowing it, I remember Pema talking about how it helps to ventilate it, to move it through, and to let it move through you rather than being stuck inside you. So that's another way of envisioning it.
And it's also helpful to remember that we're not taking it on, but we're transforming it. So it's not like we're getting burdened or slimed by it, especially that image of the Vajra, it's complete and utter transformation. Like walk into a dark room and turn on the light. Yeah. So good point there. Amanda, did you have something to share?
Yeah, just being mindful of the time. I wanted to step in and say thank you so much for your teachings today. And also to put the donate link in the chat for anybody who would like to participate in that way. Natural Dharma Fellowship is able to provide programs like Dharma Sunday and to support our visiting teachers through people's donations. So if you feel moved to provide Dharma, you can use that link. Always remembering that your practice and being here is the highest form of generosity that you can give. So absolutely no pressure, but if you feel moved to also make a monetary donation, that is an option for you.
Thank you, Amanda. And yeah, so let's move into dedication. I think rather than reading something in the way of dedication, let's just do it from our hearts. So just breathing in all the goodness, the inspiration, the blessings of this time like waves of light, and just bathing yourself in this light, every nook and cranny and level and dimension of your being, just infused with all the goodness, the inspiration, the blessings of this time, this meditation, this sharing, this deep sharing. And gathering all this goodness and this light into your heart, and then extending this out to each other, to everyone who's been a part of the circle today, everyone who's been here on the Zoom screen with us, and to all the beings who came to mind during our meditation, that they too may just bathe in the light of this dedication, be blessed by this, receive this, and the energy of this dedication, however they most need at this time, to awaken to their true nature and highest potentials. And then to gather this goodness and this light into our heart and let it flow in a boundless way to all beings, in all places, in all directions, in all times, in all worlds, bathing them in the light of this goodness, trusting that each and every being will receive this however they most need to awaken to their true nature and to their highest potentials. Hmm. Deep bows to you all. Thank you so much for taking this to heart, sharing so deeply. May we become ever more familiar with these precious teachings and just carry them forth into the world as ambassadors of this goodness, this light, and this love.